Hey everyone, it's Bill from BNC Ultimate RC. We're going to touch base on a subject today that a lot of people have asked me about, and that is RC vehicle maintenance. So I'm going to give you somewhat of an idea of what I do, and not meaning it's absolutely correct, but it is what I do. First thing I do is I pop off all wheels and tires. Okay, once you get your wheels and tires off, I like to do an inspection on them. I clean them with a brush, maybe with a little bit of WD-40 on it, or wash them. And what you want to do is you want to check all your wheels for cracks. Make sure none of your hubs or on the back are rounding out, nothing like that. And you want to check your tires for rips, tears, or anything like that to make sure that everything is good to go there. So then I'll do a basic cleaning. Usually I use a can of air, like for computers, and blow everything out of it. But I've used air compressor on this. You don't want to use air that's too harsh because it can cause damage to electrical components and things like that. So after that being done, you know, you can wash it if you want to. I tend to try to keep water off my vehicles as much as possible. So I don't wash mine unless they get really muddy, and which I tried, you know, I try to stay away from that some. I've had so many problems with my vehicles from running through water and stuff. So anyway, after that, after you get in washing it up and everything, I usually take a paper towel. And you want to make sure you got plenty of paper towels. And I take a 1-inch brush, and I'll just go through and start cleaning up everything and wipe off the excess with the paper towels. This is a good way to get it nice and clean, I mean, you don't want to start out with a vehicle that's extremely dirty when you do this, but and the WD-40 leaves a coat of light oil on everything so that you don't have rust problems. This is especially important when you finish running it in water and things like that, mud, to get the grit and everything off of the vehicle, because sand and dirt is an abrasive. It works like sandpaper on your vehicle, and you can really wear down parts fast. The second tool in my arsenal is a regular toothbrush. Once again, I just shoot a little bit of WD-40 on it, or whatever else you have, and you can see, you know, it really does get into the crevices and stuff and gets things cleaned up nice. You scrub it up pretty good. I also use the same brushes when I'm scrubbing the vehicle with soap and water to get it clean. I usually use Dawn dish detergent. So now that I've brushed over the whole thing, take a rag or paper towels. I'll wipe everything down really good, get all the excess oil off so it's not puddled up on everything. That'll prevent dirt from sticking as much. You know, like dust and stuff. If you got it real wet with oil, the dust will really accumulate and stick to the vehicle even worse. And we don't want that. Okay, so I've pretty much got that done. Next step is you want to do a visual inspection on all moving parts. Your camber links, hubs, all that stuff. You want to make sure that the screws are tight. Metal and metal parts, like a metal screw into an aluminum hub carrier, you want to make sure you use thread locker, because if you don't, you are really asking for trouble, because when the things come apart, they tend to do more damage than a little. So you want to make sure all this done. You want to check everything to make sure nothing is broken or cracked or anything. If it is, it needs to be replaced or repaired. Actually, just doing this video, I just noticed that I have a broken RP arm. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. I had no idea that was broken until just right this minute. So that will be replaced before I run the vehicle again. And this should be done, really. I mean, if you run your trucks a lot, if it takes any hard hits, you want to check it. Other than that, you want to, pretty much keep an eye on your vehicle and look over everything. I do it a couple times a week because I do run my vehicles pretty hard, well, really hard, as you all see. So I like to go over my stuff all the time and make sure it's in good operating order before I take it out and run it, because it just prevents problems down the road. My next step on this is to remove the top camber link on the vehicle and fold down that hub so that you can get to the axle, the CVD. And you want to make sure you keep these CVDs well oiled or well greased. So you take off the hub nut, get that off of there. These are MIP axles, so they have a little bit different style than what comes stock usually. I imagine some other maybe brand vehicle has them like this, maybe stock, I don't know. So then you want to pull your axle out. You get your axle out, and then you want to pull that out. And then again, I use WD-40. I tend not to use water on it unless it's really bad. So I clean this off really good with WD-40, scrub it up with a brush. Get all that grime off of there, the old hard grease that has like dirt stuck to it. Clean inside the drive joint itself to get any dirt out of there, as well as where the spindle goes through, and dry that off with a paper towel. Get it nice and clean and dried off. And then your next step is going to be, while you've got this sitting here, the piece that is still on your vehicle, I spray WD-40 up inside and fill it up, and you can see the crud come out of there. Try to hit the end of it with a brush where the hard grease is, and then I just put a paper towel on it, and I basically let the WD-40 run back out of it. And when you push the WD-40 in there with a straw, you'll see nothing but black grease and dirt coming out of there. Alright, so while that's sitting there draining out kinda, your next step is going to be, you want to get up inside here where the bearings are, and you want to pop these bearings out. It's not hard to do. So pop the bearings out. I use a small pick to do this. You can use whatever you want, but I found that this works best for me. So there's the one bearing out, and you can see that it is, you get it focus here, you can see it's really grimy. So check it, make sure that it spins okay, make sure it's not locked up or anything. WD-40 on that, scrub it, get it nice and clean. If you do this a lot, it doesn't require as much effort. Okay, so that bearing is clean. You can see it looks really well now. It looks really clean now. It spins freely. So then you have the bearing on the inside. You pop that out. The inner bearing is clean. I've reinstalled it. And now you want to clean the backside area where your bearings behind your hub. You want to clean all that out. If you have any grit in there or dirt, you want to take the carriers off and clean all inside of those. These here are in pretty good shape. They're not dirty. Alright, so the bearing is back in on the inside. We put the bearing back on the inside. What I like to do first, though, is I take a small amount of grease. This is actually Traxxas grease, and I like to take and put a little bit on my bearings on both sides and just work it back and forth and work it through before installing it back in. Put the bearing back in. And make sure that you clean your screws that you're going to be putting back in make sure they're clean. Do not clean them with oil. That will affect the Loctite that you're going to be putting on. So you want to just wash those. Okay, next step is I take the grease and I put not an excessive amount, but I do put it on and I work it into the splines onto the axles. So you work that in, slide it back in. I tend to work it back and forth a couple times just to get it in there really well, and then put the axle back in. Make sure it's seated. Okay, at this point you can put your arm back on. I use blue Loctite gel. Once again, you don't need an extreme amount. Just enough to cover the threads. Put your screw back in, tighten it down, and you will put your hub back on. Make sure it is also seated tight up against the hub. That's basically it. You do the same thing, all four wheels. If you have four-wheel drive, well, you do it anyway. It's just two-wheel drive, of course, is different. Make sure everything's nice and clean. And put back together. And I can't stress enough, use the Loctite. Make sure that your screws that you're putting in, or the thread in the area where you're putting it at, is not oily, because it will counteract the ability for the Loctite to work. So you want to make sure that they're completely degreased and free of oils before you put the Loctite on. So that's basically it. The only other thing that I do is I take the cover off. Let me see if I can zoom in here for you folks. I take the cover off for the spur gear and pinion. I will take that off and also blow that out with compressed air. Again, not a large volume of air. The can of air for computers works great. And then other than that, check your body to make sure that you don't have anything flopping around, anything that's too bad on it. Make sure your mounting posts are secure. Check your motor bolts or screws to make sure that everything's okay there. Main thing, you just want to run over, make sure everything's tight and that kind of thing. If something is loose, take the screw out. Do not just tighten it up. If you have it's a metal on metal part and you have Loctite on it, take the screw out if it's loose, because once you tighten it down, it will break the Loctite and it will no longer be effective. So if the screw is loose, take it all the way out, reapply Loctite, put it back together and tighten it down. Then that'll save you a lot of headaches down the road. So that's about it. My trucks are run very hard. This is about as clean as it's going to get. I don't worry about the cleanliness as much as I worry about maintenance, especially grease on the shafts, and make sure that your bearings are all good and that kind of thing. A bad bearing can ruin a lot of things. It cause overheating issues, ESC shutdown. It can cause your hubs to melt and do all kinds of just crazy stuff. So bearings are one of the single most important things to maintain on your vehicle. Well, that's it, everyone. It's just a small lesson on vehicle maintenance. I'll be seeing you soon. I'll be putting out another video on the X-Max, that a gear issue that I'm fixing on that. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and we're getting close to that 300 mark now for subscribers. This thing is really coming along great. It's really awesome. So thank you to everyone for your help in sticking by me on this whole thing. It's been great. Take care, everyone. Also, one other note. PayPal is the donation button is in the upper right hand corner of my banner or whatever, my artwork, up in on my homepage. So hit on that. I'll also be trying to put the links in video description. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. I'm technologically handicapped, and Ryan Valley and RC Zoo, Chuds, my buddy Chuds, and Erica Red, and a couple others have been helping me out trying to get through this. It's been tough. So, but I'm starting to finally grasp concepts. So, but it makes it hard on them when they've got to explain to me what the definition of a word is before I can actually understand what I'm supposed to be doing. So, thanks to all of you. I appreciate it.